Good evening, all, and welcome to the school committee meeting of Tuesday, May 10, 2022. I'd like to begin the meeting as we do by calling it to order and then beginning with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Also, I'd like to read the mission statement. The vision of the Wakefield Public Schools is to graduate students who are confident, lifelong learners, who are respectful and caring members of their community. Our mission is to prepare students for college, career, and community by providing a rich and challenging curriculum, high-quality instruction, and educational experiences that meet their individual needs and interests. Thank you all, and welcome to the meeting. Item number 6 in the agenda is our public comment. This time, if any member of the public, either with us here in the studio or at home via Zoom, would like to address the school committee, now is the opportunity to do so. We would welcome that. Do we have anyone on Zoom? No? Okay. Moving right along then. Student Advisory Council. We have with us tonight from the high school, Maggie and Molly. Welcome. Who would like to go first? Good evening, ladies, and welcome.
Hi. I'm going to be up first.
Okay.
Talking about academics first. So AP exams are going well and we'll finish up later this week. We also have Math MCAS for grade 10 on May 17th and 18th, and Ms. McLeod has shared out the full schedule in her weekly update on Sunday. Moving on to performing arts, if you haven't gone to see The Wizard of Oz at the Galvin this past weekend, you still have 2 more opportunities this Friday and Saturday, and it has been getting rave reviews, so definitely recommend. And I'm going to hand it over to Maggie.
Yes, so I am in the car after my track meet, so I'm reading these off my phone. So 1 second. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Okay, perfect. So we have a half day coming up on Wednesday, May 18th, this Wednesday. And then this past Thursday, all students at WMHS participated in a day of unity with a guest speaker, Ken Nwadike Jr. So I actually missed the presentation. I was taking an AP statistics exam. I don't know if Molly, if you want to share anything, any personal experience you had, if you could attend the presentation.
I did see the presentation. It was fantastic. The speaker definitely could connect very well to people our age, and it was super interactive and really great.
Yeah, and I've heard really good things about Ken as well. I know he visited with the track team and he used to run, so I've heard nothing but great things. And then lastly, the senior night committee is looking for volunteers for the upcoming senior night that we have every year. And then Ms. McLeod's parent update will have the link if anybody wants to sign up or just help out. And that's all.
Okay, great. Any questions for the advisors?
How'd the track meet go?
We won.
Nice. That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome. And the drive was safe on the ride home.
Yeah,
You were
that
pulled
went well.
over. Oh, you're in the back seat. Okay. All right. Great. Even better. Great. Okay. Without any other questions for the advisors, we will move on. Thank you very much, and good luck
Thank
with
you.
AP and
Thank
finals.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Moving on. Item number 8, the consent agenda. We have a motion.
Move that the school committee approve the minutes of the May 3, 2022 school committee meeting as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion or comments on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Passes unanimously. Budget items.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Tonight you have the financial reports from July 1st, 2021 through April 30th, 2022. We only have 2 more months in the fiscal year, so we are in spend down mode, making sure we're clearing up our purchase orders and cleaning up our expenditures. We have 2 more months of payrolls with some final stipends to be completed. We have about 2% left of the budget, 2.8% left of the budget of the local appropriation. You'll see we have some negative balances in some lines. That's because encumbrances are still high. So as we get towards the end of the year, we'll do some end-of-year transfers, probably in early July. We're still spending down our grants, which these grants have to be spent down for the most part by June 30th. A couple of them, they'll let us, like Metco, we can spend until June 30th, but we'll have a carry forward for next fiscal year for the amount that we're not spending. Revolving accounts carry from year to year. They're in pretty healthy shape. You'll see that the circuit breaker is a revolving account. We get that quarterly from the state. We were scheduled to get our March, probably the first week of April. That came in late in April. So as of the time I did this report, it still hadn't been booked by the town, but it came in. So we have 2 more payments of circuit breaker. Circuit breaker, for those that don't know, helps us pay for our out-of-district tuition costs. So we'll be spending all of that. Does anyone have any questions on what I've gone through for grants, revolving, or local budget? We're in healthy shape, and I know Tom's going to ask about having any available budget at the end of the year.
Just one question. I know I had asked earlier about the revolving accounts. Some, I know because it's like tuition based, et cetera, some of the balances are in negative. At what point, as we approach the end of the fiscal year, will those become positive?
So revolving accounts carry from year to year. So what circuit breaker is, though, that revenue comes in quarterly. So it comes in, the March one, like I said, hadn't been booked yet by the time this came in. This report was done, but we already had March, and then we'll have 1 more payment in June. So we're probably going to wipe that out, but we can carry 1 quarter of that to next year. And what that does for us, it gives us a buffer to carry us through the summer months, because those tuitions carry through the summer. But yeah, anything left over from athletics, performing arts, helps us to prepare for the beginning of next year. So revolvings, we don't really lose that money, we can carry it. It's grants that must be spent by the end of that grant period.
I guess what I'm wondering, so for instance, preschool tuition right now is 68.6 in the negative, right?
On the
That far right-hand column?
No, that's prior year balance.
Oh, okay.
So that's fiscal 21.
So the current balance right now is the
April 30th, 2022. So
356.
yeah, those last
Okay.
2 columns, it helps you, gives you a perspective of what we're doing this year as compared to last year.
Got you.
So we're doing much better
Yeah,
this year.
yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Any other questions for Christine? Okay. Christina, you finished? I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I just said I know Tom's always going to wonder about ending balances, but we're looking really healthy to spend down, Tom. But more to come for the next 2 months. The next 2 months in terms of school finance will be really busy. We have a lot of June payrolls to do, paying out stipends, so we'll be doing a lot of transfers in June and July. And then now we have a motion for the 3 payrolls in April.
Yes.
Yes. Move that the school committee approve warrants number 40, number 42, and number 44 as presented.
Second?
Second, motion made and seconded. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Passes unanimously. Motion on gifts?
Yep, we have some gifts tonight. So we received a gift from the Walton PTO to help us put up the Everlast climbing wall at the Walton School. It was in addition to the Cummings grant, which that finalized the last portion of the Cummings grant to be spent for this year. So the Walton PTO was generous and sent us a check for $4,525.
Okay. Move that the school committee accept with gratitude the donation of $4,525 from the Walton School PTO to help purchase the Everlast climbing wall.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Passes unanimously.
We have another gift tonight for the assistant school, softball coach for the varsity softball team for $1,200. That was donated from the High School Girls Softball Booster Club.
Move that the school committee accept with gratitude the donation of $1,200 for the assistant coach of the varsity softball team for the spring 2022 season.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Chair's comments, I will actually make very, very brief because we've got a hefty agenda. I just remind folks about this subcommittee conversation that we started last week. I sent out an email the other day. Some of you have responded back, and I appreciate those responses. So that will be a good part of our conversation and presentation at our next meeting on May 24. So if you haven't yet responded or want to amend your responses, please don't hesitate to reach out and do so. Thank you. Okay, superintendent's reports. Dr. Lyons.
Thank you so much. So we have a few items under comments and updates, and then we have 2 presentations this evening. Just kind of a quick update on COVID. Currently this week, as of today, we have 130 positive cases in the district, 122 students and 8 faculty. Our numbers are kind of last week, at the end of the week, we had 77 cases. And as of Tuesday today, we're at 130. Numbers are high, and we're paying close attention to that. We're looking very closely at patterns to see if there's any clusters at a given grade or in a class. If there are those clusters, we will kind of do what we've done in the past. If we feel it's best, if there's a large cluster or a very dramatic spread in a given class, we will work with our nurses and our school administrators to make the determination if we need to close a class or a grade. We will also kind of coordinate that with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed. We've also kind of had conversations with our lead nurses, Mary Doherty and Kelly Qualey, about just communicating thoughtfully this week. You'll see in principal communication, just a reminder about COVID, to please take advantage of tests that are available. Our testing program is still running in terms of getting antigen tests out there for all of the personnel that are involved with that. If you have any questions about that, you're welcome to check in with your nurses. But in the communication, the weekly communication from our administrators, there's going to be some gentle reminders just about mitigation strategies and just kind of risk tolerance, what to avoid, what to look out for, and just, reminders around self-care. These are all things that aren't new information, but we just want to reassert that information just to make sure that we're keeping everybody safe. So that's an update on COVID. Molly and Maggie spoke about Unity Day. Ken Nowatake was here. He spoke at Galvin in the morning, and he spoke at the high school in the afternoon. I caught the end of the presentation at Galvin. Kids were just beyond excited. There was a line after his presentation of kids to talk with him after he spoke to the group. The 5th and 6th graders, are leaving the auditorium planning the rest of their week about how they're going to change the world. It's just really a wonderful thing. He spoke at the high school. Students received it really well, and I agree. Molly said, the person was very engaging for people their age, our age too, Molly, if you're watching. I think it resonated with the adults as well. And so he had just a really nice message about, just doing the things you can, right? Just being close to people, being kind to people, different ways how you can show random acts of kindness and support people. People, his words, really need it more now than ever. And people really respond in such significant positive ways when you're able to provide that. And so just really great stuff. We also have some pictures that we can circulate amongst school committee. The entire student body was in the field house at the high school. And that's the first time that everyone has been in one place at one time, I think since COVID. And it was really amazing to be there for the adults. So Kara and I were there. We got to see it real time, and it was a great presentation. We want to especially thank the Wakefield Education Foundation Their grant kind of supported this. It was a student-initiated grant that was guided by advisors Margaret Messier and Jason Pavey, who were instrumental in bringing Ken here. So thank you to them. Next piece of information in regard to updates, we'd just like to talk a little bit about pre-K and K screening. Do you want to come up, Shanna? So one of the things, and Shannon will talk about this, so we have a little bit of a problem-solving issue this year where we have a really large wait list for our pre-K students. So we've tried to do a little problem-solving in the district, and I think we've come up with a solution, and I think Shannon has some information to share on that today.
Sure. So thank you for having me. So like Doug said, due to the high number of students that registered around January-ish, we started our registration process for Doyle. We had a high number on our wait list in response to, I think, COVID as well. And there's been some closures in local daycares and early childhood centers. So families are looking to come to Wakefield. So we looked around the district. So Doyle, as those of you who have visited, is packed with 10 classrooms already in every inch of space possible. So to add a class at Doyle is difficult to do. So we looked at the other elementary schools to see if we could increase and have a classroom be at one of those elementary schools. So Woodville does have the capacity, has an open classroom on the first floor. So we are going to move forward with an additional 11th classroom for preschool at the Woodville. We're going to pilot this for a year to see how it goes. We really want to get as many families in as possible in Wakefield. So looking at my numbers, we did numbers again today. Thank you to my secretary, Stacy, who can whip up spreadsheets like no one else. So currently we're servicing around 117 families at Doyle. Next year, we are kind of structuring some of our classrooms at Doyle a little differently, and with the increase in at Woodville, we'd be able to service around 150 students. So, you know, I think that's important. We can get a lot of people off the wait list, and also our wait list would still have about 20 families on the wait list. But we did follow a specific process in how we handled it. We really looked at, we didn't want students to have multiple transitions from year to year. So we really looked at our 4-year-olds versus our 3-year-olds that were on the wait list and currently at Doyle, because we didn't want them, if they were, say, a Walton district student, going to Woodville for another year of preschool and then having to go to Walton for kindergarten. We were trying to minimize the transitions. So we really looked at our 4-year-olds on the wait list. We surveyed all families currently at Doyle and on the wait list first to see the interest in this, to see how many students would, you know, potentially be able to go to Woodville. And then we had numbered our wait list anyway in January, so we went through that process. We just went in order of those who were interested, and we contacted those families to solidify their spots. So currently we have 16 families that are interested in going and have accepted a spot at Woodville. And the IEP students, we're running it just like a Doyle classroom. So we're going to split, the ratio would be the same, around 15 to 16 students, having a little bit of flexibility to meet the needs of all the students, 11 to 5 ratio with special needs students and regular education students. I would still oversee the classroom in conjunction with Matt Carter. We're working together on this. They'll follow the same schedule, have the same opportunities all the children at Doyle would have. So very similar to a classroom at Doyle, just housed at Woodville. Parents have reached out with a lot of questions. Staff had reached out with a lot of questions. So we created a communication just yesterday, sent out to Woodville and Doyle community first, and then today to all Wakefield families. To make sure there was an FAQ in there as well, to make sure we answered any questions that people may have had. So I can answer questions. I don't know if there's anything else you want me to add to that.
I think I would just like to add, so the issue that we had, these are Woodville students, right? That if we were unable to create this, they might have had an interrupted pre-K experience or no pre-K experience. So when I say interrupted, they might not have been able to get the number of days that might have worked for their family, or they might not have been able to kind of find a quality experience that matched with schedules in a family. It's really, really hard to find programming in this space right now, especially post COVID in the space that we're in. So I really want to thank Shannon genuinely and Matt Carter for kind of collaborating together and really being thoughtful and creative and problem solving around students and families that are coming our way, no matter what experience they have. But the fact that we are able to accommodate them, I think, gives that group of students a leg up, if you will, right? Or a greater opportunity to be successful when they transition to kindergarten. So thank you.
Shannon, I have a question. So this is all projecting for next year, obviously.
Correct.
So Woodville will open up in the fall, and I assume there are no other schools that had any capacity, additional
Correct.
capacity at this point in time. Okay, thank you.
There were no, we did kind of an assessment around free spaces. We really have no free spaces. We're even needing to kind of move things around at Woodville to make that work. But Matt has been a great partner in that. So yeah, we're able to make that work. And the students, the classroom will be in the K wing. So it'll be on the first floor. They'll have an entrance. So I think Shannon and Matt have worked quite a bit on the details.
That's great.
Are the numbers similar to pre-COVID numbers in terms of enrollment?
So
Or is it like much bigger?
we're back to what we were pre-COVID.
Okay, okay.
So last year we had to minimize the classrooms just because of
Right.
mitigation strategies, and then
Right.
this year we were cautious. The number of students coming in with social, emotional, and
Yeah.
IEP needs has increased over
Okay.
my time here. I think due to COVID, and that I'm projecting that same increase for another year or so. So we've had to adjust kind of the makeup of our classrooms and the number of students in classrooms, but we're hoping next year to kind of go back to what we were pre-COVID.
Okay.
One other
Thank you.
question, Shannon, I'm sorry. So I think you mentioned there may be 20 families that will still be on the waiting list after?
Correct.
And there's obviously no options around trailers or whatever that really are
Right.
feasible? Okay. All right, thank you.
I mean, I would love it, but.
Yeah.
But a lot happens over the summer, so we tell all those families, a lot happens over the summer up until August 31st. We'll get a phone call and someone's moved out, we fill that spot immediately with the next person on the wait list. We fill the spots regardless of what happens, so we don't wait until, we'll fill them in July, August, September, October, we'll keep filling them as they open up, so. Okay.
So first, I'd say thank you for being like creative and finding this solution, and also I think one of my questions would have been if you would have prioritized sort of students that would have been at the Woodville. So minimizing that transitional spaces is great and good forward thinking. In terms of when the pre-K students are at the Woodville, would they be in? I know Doug, you sort of talked about they could have their own entrance. Kind of, I know that like the way the kindergartners sort of use that one door. So that could minimize sort of them using the larger spaces. Would they be accessing all of the additional sort of specialist spaces, the cafeteria, auditorium, gym, library? And presuming they are, what's that impact on sort of that tight schedule that exists currently in the Woodville
So
structure?
we're trying to create the same experience for the students at Woodville that they would have at, well, we are going to create it, than Doyle. So Doyle currently does not have specialists other than music once a week. So we've already talked with Tom Bankert at providing that support at the Woodville. It's just once a week for music. So they don't have they don't have gym, art, music, PE, all of those other, it's technology, all those other specialists at Doyle. So they would not have that opportunity at Woodville either. And then for lunch, our students are currently eating in the classrooms. So we're going to start with that at the Woodville as well. So they'll be eating in their classroom. So it's not going to impact the scheduling of the rest of the school in the cafeteria. However, with Doyle getting our new kitchen, we are looking towards moving some of our older classrooms, our 4-year-old classrooms, possibly to eating in more of a cafeteria to get them ready for kindergarten. So we are looking forward ahead at Woodville as well to possibly doing that come this spring, so they have more of a kindergarten experience to get them ready. So we're looking at that. Shouldn't impact scheduling as much. That like I said, the day is going to be the same. So 5.5 hours is the preschool day versus the 6-hour day. So students eat a little bit earlier at the preschool, so it wouldn't impact. They could eat earlier at Woodville as well. The one area that we're working out with Matt is the recess times, so that when they go out to the playground. So that's the one potential, but he felt like there was like wiggle room in the morning to shift so the preschoolers could get out. So I don't see it being a problem. And then as far as we talked about the involvement in just like school-wide, like assemblies and whatnot, anything that would be appropriate for the preschoolers or kindergartners really in preschool, they would go to that. We also talked about anything that's happening at Doyle, such as, I know you guys know, we did our sledding activity every year. We could bus that class over to the Doyle to participate in that. We do the Polar Express around, the holidays, so we could bus them over midday. We have our in-house buses that could pick up those 15, 16 kids and bring them over. So we've really looked at it from like all aspects, I feel like. So we could answer all these questions.
Great. It's a lot of work that went into it, and you're doing it really well. So
Thank you.
kudos.
Thank you.
Shannon, can you just expand? I know you mentioned it earlier, and I think it's important information too, as we've been thinking about the transition needs of students post-COVID and just kind of the experiences that have been lost. You mentioned the shift in how classes are going to be structured. Can you talk a little bit more about that with just the age-based shift?
Sure. Yeah. So we really looked at some of our students. There's quite a few students that are on the younger end that would potentially be going to kindergarten next year. So say you have an August birthday and you just make it. However, due to COVID, parents have felt like maybe an additional year in preschool could really benefit them. So we've had like a handful of those families reach out to us, say we want to pay tuition to do another year. We really want to get another year under the belt. They're on the younger end, and that's like parent choice, So we leave it up to them. So we had a handful of them, and so we looked at our classes or everyone that was registered in total to see what the age breakdown was. We really want to try to focus on some pre-K classrooms. So those 4 and a half year old to 5-year-olds really being in a classroom together. Currently, what we do is we spread out all of our kids, 3, 4, 5, and we mix them. And we see benefit to that because we have the olders with the youngers who benefit from, the modeling, and the youngers learn the communication skills of what we're working on. So, but we really want to try to focus a couple classrooms on that pre-K experience and really kind of have that focus that second half of the year of getting them ready really for kindergarten and really focusing on academics a little bit more. So we're going to shift kind of our thinking for next year and really have some 4-year-old based classrooms, some 3-year-old based classrooms. We want to pilot this to see like how we do with that. We are going to have some mixed a little bit of our younger 4s and older 3s just because of the makeups and, of the children on IEPs, just to have that wiggle room. We want to see how this goes. And this Woodville classroom will be one of those classrooms that are on the older end to really pilot that. And we're looking at some specific curriculums that are being used in the elementary schools and kindergarten. And I've worked with Lisa Azarito and Val Drynan on the math and the ELA portions of it. They have preschool versions of things and pushing it into these classrooms, these older classrooms. So.
Thank you. Yeah, that's all. Thanks.
Amy?
Thank you. I have one question and then a comment. The question is the Wakefield Academy. How will that work for before and
Yep,
after
so we brought
school?
Estelle into the conversation for that, and they separate by grade level at Woodville right now for Academy, so she feels as though that she could staff it, so preschool had, a staff member that's overseeing those kids, but also filter in with the kindergarten kids for Wakefield Academy before and after school. They would have to start a little bit earlier because their day ends a little bit earlier. That's why she would bring on a couple staff members a little bit earlier.
So it sounds like they'll be will mostly be in one classroom the majority of the day, right?
Correct.
And the playground will be age appropriate? I know they're getting a new playground.
That would have been my other question, but I know like you're working with Matt, so I think
Okay.
this is going to be handled at the building
I'm
level.
sure.
But yeah,
Okay.
The kids going there are on the older ends, and we have a playground out back at Doyle right now that the kids access that don't seem me not being much different than what Woodville.
Okay. The comment I wanted to make was about I know you had mentioned we were trying to minimize transition. And I'm not a teacher or a psychologist or doctor or anything, but I do have experience as a mom. And they had 2 kids that went to the Woodville and then had to go to the Woodville. And I actually had a daughter who was 2 different preschools, then bopped around, and I have to say I'm a fan of transitions. I know not every kid does well with them, but in the world, the structured world we live in, I think the more transitions kids have at a younger age, the more adaptable they are as they age. So I wouldn't limit that class.
So just
based
to
on-
clarify that class, so that class is not just Woodville students? I
Oh,
don't know if
I
that-
didn't know if you said you would.
That's what-
Okay, so
Trying
it
to-
is like a district-wide classroom. The students on IEPs, however, we've selected carefully, so to minimize the
Okay.
transitions for the IEP
that's
students.
helpful that you
But
clarified
the,
that point.
the
Okay.
other students that we've selected, the general education peers, that we've selected are from
All over the district.
all over
Okay,
the district.
That wasn't right. Okay.
Yeah, I even would say just the way it came. I
Right,
don't
did
think
it come
you
out
meant- No,
wrong?
just the way it
Okay.
came out. I was questioning how.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's a helpful clarification.
Right.
That and I can see that if students have specific needs, they've already been identified on an IEP
Right.
that you would and they could potentially have just pre-exposure to Woodville going there
Correct.
the following year. Okay.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a clarifying point for a lot of the parents who were interested. Some parents don't think the transitions, are great for their child, so they first opted in, and then once they knew that they potentially would be transfer again, say Walton or Greenwood the following year, they didn't want to be in
Yeah.
again, but a lot of people want in, too.
Yeah,
So-
I have a child in an IEP, and the transitions were honestly, in retrospect, the best thing that probably
Right.
throw a substitute at her, don't let her know, the more that they have to adapt, the better off they are.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
It's great.
So just before we move into the case screening part of this, one of the things that I just want to just give you some kind of touch points or kind of thoughts to hold, right? Is that this is a pilot. This is a 1-year pilot, right? And Shannon also creating age-appropriate classrooms or age-level classrooms in her own school at Doyle are pilots as well. We're trying to do a little something different to try to get some different outcomes while also trying to meet the needs of a larger group of students and families, right? So this is what this is, and I think we will be inviting Shannon back just to give an update on how this is going. I will tell you from experience that factoring younger children into a school really makes everybody be their best selves, right? When kindergartners are no longer the youngest on the floor, even the kindergartners act a little bit differently when there are, kids a little bit younger than they are. And so we're really excited about this opportunity. And again, I feel like I can't say this enough, would not be possible without Shannon's expertise and without Matt's willingness to find space and really try to work and collaborate together to make this work. So thanks. And so can you stay for a minute while we talk about kindergarten screening?
Sure.
All right. Carrie, do you want to talk about case screening?
I know Shannon has worked really closely with our elementary principals as well to plan, similar to years past. The kindergarten students get out a little bit earlier. The last day for our current kindergartners is June 22nd, as of right now, with our last day of school. So the current kindergartners end early to allow for screening time with the incoming kindergartners. So we'll have teams at each of the buildings who will welcome in our new kindergartners and families, and it's just more of it's less of an assessment and more of just an opportunity to see the students engage in different activities related to social emotional learning, communication, fine motor, and they have a team at each building that just works with students and just kind of overall sees the group to help contribute to creating balanced classes for kindergarten. So the screening will take place with the teams, and then there will be a day after for the teachers to debrief and actually start diving right into making class lists. Because ideally, we'll get those done early for any summer introduction activities, or last year it was really helpful when we were able to get the Acceleration Academy going and having those class lists already made to try to group students with students who would be their classmates in the fall. So so it should be a great opportunity. I know our principals really look forward to that. Shannon also gets involved as well. If I missed anything, feel free. And then I know you have preschool
Yeah, the only
screening
other
as well.
thing that, just to note is, I know, because it was a question, I don't know from who, but EL learners are also screened. I talked to Colleen Anyas, who runs EL screenings for the students coming to kindergarten next year, so they'll participate in the general screening that all the kindergarten teachers do, but then the EL teachers take them immediately afterwards to do their screeners, to make sure they have that information for placement purposes and all of that as well. So, and also Doyle students moving on to kindergarten are all screened at their receiving schools. I know that was a clarifying, because we do a lot of transition work already about the students at Doyle with the elementary schools. I think parents feel like they already have the information on the students, so why they have to do screening, but it's really to mix them in with all the other kids that are coming from other places as well. So, and then Doyle also does a screening. That's why we're out 2 days early as well. We do screening for all of our kids coming into Doyle as well.
Is dyslexia screening part of K?
It's not part of K screening. That's something that we would conduct as part of our elementary assessments in kindergarten.
So it'll start when they're in
It will
kindergarten?
start in kindergarten,
Okay.
yeah, in terms of the assessment tool that we're using. Right now, we're using the Rapid tool. We're continuing to assess whether or not that's the best tool to use, and we're, trying to stay on track of that. But that won't be something that's done at kindergarten screening. It's more of a kind of like a high-level overview.
Any other questions regarding this topic, K screening? Okay.
Okay?
Thank you
so much,
Shannon.
Shannon.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate the time.
You're welcome.
So next up, I'd like to ask Tim O'Brien to come up. Tim has been working with the PBC, with Left Field, and with our design team from SMMA. Tim and I were initially going to present this evening. Tim reached out to SMMA and Lynn Stapleton from Left Field, Brian Black, our architect, and Helen Fantini, our architect from SMMA, members of our design team are here. We're going to be presenting to MSBA. When I say we, collectively we, right? And so we are waiting to be put on the MSBA agenda at this point. And this is a little bit of an engineering challenge in that in the facilities assessment, or we are presenting information, which is really the end of Module 3, which is what they call the PSR. So we're completing Module 3 before we move into Module 4, and we're presenting to one of the subcommittees at MSBA. So it's the facilities assessment subcommittee. There are 3 subcommittees at MSBA. We're presenting to one of the 3, probably in the upcoming weeks. And this is a little bit of a design or challenge, even in presenting the information, because we have about 15 slides. Correct me if I'm off, Brian. 15 slides, 20 minutes?
Oh, you're limited.
15 slides, no more.
15 slides, no more, 20 minutes. So you will see Brian could not have put more information on the next 15 slides that you're going to see. It's actually remarkably creative. So, Brian, I'm prepared to do as we had discussed. Do you want me to start off?
Sure. Shall I share the screen?
Do you need 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, the question from school committee was, should we time you, Brian? And I said, sure. So it's on the screen now here, Brian.
It is, okay.
Yeah, and so can you see it or no?
I cannot, is it able to be shared on Zoom?
That's a WC.
Or I can follow in
Are
parallel.
you sharing the presentation?
I think it's happening right now. I think they're working it in the studio. Thanks so much. You got it?
You see it now.
Great. So myself and Tim will be doing the intro. We're gonna discuss the first 3 slides, and we're gonna have part of the 4th slide in our presentation. So if you're watching the time, set, go.
Yeah, I'm gonna show you that they gave you
So what's that?
They gave you 20 minutes or
20
19, and then the rest of them get 1 minute?
No, please, So, so this is going to be quick. So we're starting off with, and the reason we started off with the map of Wakefield section with the 8 schools that are in Wakefield is because the MSBA is always interested in kind of where the high school, especially high school buildings, are located. Is it central to other parts, and is it accessible within the community? They're also interested to see how the other buildings are located within the community. That's why there's a map and the legend that's on the map in this particular space. I will add additional information regarding the number of students that we're serving, about 3,400 at this point. 3,400 students in 8 buildings, 7 schools plus our post-academy program. And so I will include demographic information. Can you hear me? Good. So I will include demographic information. I will include, this is like the haunted house. So I'll include demographic information. I will include a breakdown of how many students are going to be served at the high school in this design. And then we will be moving on. Next slide, please. So this is a summary of the existing building deficiencies. And so this is slide 2, Rye. So, yeah, perfect. So this is kind of a very brief summary of the existing building deficiencies. And, you know, we discussed ADA accessibility on this slide. We discussed kind of the difficulty in the undersized and landlocked classrooms, really the lack of 21st century teaching spaces, and really the difficulty with adjacencies. You know, science classrooms are not close to math classrooms, are not close to any of our design and engineering classrooms. The common areas are really not accessible or common in ways that new designs would demonstrate. And so this is kind of a summary of the real challenges that exist in our buildings, again, with one or two of the biggest items being accessibility and kind of just the obstacles in delivering curriculum the way that we need to deliver it. What is also kind of mentioned here, and it's mentioned as we go through, is that the current design of the building that we're in has really impacted our NEASC accreditation. Next slide. So in the educational plan or the educational program that is developed along with the design team and the teaching team, teachers and administrators, you know, this is developed over a course of 4 months. This has, you know, we've probably had 20 or 25 meetings where we've met and really talked about what are the priorities, what are the kind of the priorities, not only within the design, but also in kind of the areas that we really want to improve. You know, so we talked about a design that is student-centered, that is accessible and interdisciplinary, technology infused, where technology can be accessed, assistive technology as well as instructional technology throughout all of the classrooms and all of the centers that are served. We talked about having a greater community impact, similar to the way Galvin has impacted our community, and making it accessible in that way. If you'll see the design at Galvin, you know, the school proper can be isolated, but yet there's a community entrance, and the community can still come in and see the production, for example, see the Wizard of Oz, and we're trying to create a similar space with similar designs here, but really what this is going to impact most is teaching and learning, right? And so there's going to be kind of a shift in our ability to do problem-based learning, to learn in larger groups, and to have greater choice. Teachers would have greater choice of how they might want to shift their instruction where they don't have those choices now. Next slide, please. So really, in terms of the educational program, we're really kind of split it into 4 clusters. So we've, in the design kind of plan. And so we'll turn it over to Brian to say more about this in a moment. But the 4 clusters are science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, humanities, and so health, wellness, and athletics, and fine and performing arts are the 4 clusters. And we've talked about how do we connect these things, and how do we make kind of a hub, like a central kind of area in the building that is, and you'll see on the slide intentionally, and our design guys love this, right? They put the heart in the middle, right? And so this is intentional, and it is to kind of keep us focused on, like, if we're going to create a central hub in our building, and we'll kind of design around it. You know, connections to nature and the outdoors are critically important, as well as a kind of, again, a center. Tim, am I missing anything on kind of the design piece as it relates to outdoors and where it's going to be located on Beasley?
I don't think so. No, we're just making sure that we pay close attention to loading docks and accessibility for deliveries and things of that nature. Make sure that the, we're easy access to storage and kitchen access for their deliveries as well. So things like that, making sure that that's thoughtfully designed.
Okay. Can you add just information around parking? So it's a question that we always get at this phase. What would parking look like? Will it be more? Will it be less?
So at this point in the design, we've spoken a lot about it. They've done studies as to what we're using for our parking spaces now and what we may need moving forward. As things are right this minute, it looks like we will have more parking than we do currently in the new building design.
Thank you so much. I think we can turn it over to Brian.
Thank you. Dr. Lyons, and I want to commend you and the whole district really on the clarity of the educational program that is being submitted. As everyone knows, this is the basis for all design moving forward. And so we feel that we have a strong DNA for the project in whatever form the building takes. That becomes more the evolution and the growth of the project in response to other issues and constraints, including the site, which we'll get into in a moment. The diagram here, we feel, has reached a good level of clarity in terms of describing the fundamental adjacencies of the 4 academic clusters. We find that there can be a high level of economy in terms of this sort of layout, which is generally star-shaped in plan and able to be connected through that central commons space, which is really the hub and the heart of the school. And we're trying to capture a few other considerations here as well, including location of building services, Tim touched on, the ability for the building to make space and to create a lot of surface frontage to be able to engage with nature and with the outdoors. So you see outdoor learning on the left indicated. And then one issue that has emerged through the course of this process is the understanding of the building.
Oh, hope those aren't on our minutes.
Shut them off.
Stop the clock.
Helen, can you hear me?
Yeah, it looks like Brian froze. Are you back, Brian? Oh. Okay, he might have to come in and out. Can you hear me, Doug?
I can.
Oh, okay. So I can try to take over for Brian, but it looks like his final point there was what you had touched on, is having a literal heart to the school, a hub of activity, something that makes everyone feel welcome when they enter the building. We can move on. So as part of the development of this very early phase of the design of the building, we did the educational visioning process, and we had several workshops led by David Stephen. One thing we're hearing from the district is a desire to move towards an interdisciplinary learning mode. Right now, you're departmentally organized. And so the building needs to respond to that. And so some ways to do that include clustering things together that do have, maybe they're not exactly the same, but being able to put science around, tech labs that don't necessarily need, lost internet, don't necessarily need natural light the same way that regular classrooms do. So again, we're going to try to be efficient as we plan the building and respond to the educational program all along the way. Go on. So here are some very early floor plans. We did have 4 different options for the new building that played with different ways to connect those 4 clusters. And this is, again, a very early version of a floor plan that shows levels 1, 2, and 3. It is a 3-story building with the organization to the left side, which is south, plan south on the site for majority of classrooms, and then those 2 clusters in the diagram that has athletics and then fine arts to the right side, or north, plan north. I know one thing that Brian will often point out when he walks through the floor plans is not only understanding that the dining commons is the heart of the school on the first floor, but as you move up to the second floor, the media center really also takes on that role on the second floor. The gym is located on the second floor as well. You can move on. So the heavily annotated site plan, as Doug had mentioned, we very much wanted to make sure we labeled everything and discussed everything that we know that the MSBA and others are interested in hearing. And one of them for sure is understanding how we are building on Beasley Oval. It's a pretty tight fit, as you see the new building and the outline, that dashed outline of the existing building. At the end of the day, we will replace Beasley Oval on the site of the existing building. But again, this site plan is trying to convey areas of parking, entry plaza, also indicate we do have some steep grade changes along Hemlock. Again, that's Plan South. So again, just trying to make everyone acquainted with the topography and some of the challenges that we will be dealing with as we continue to develop the site and the plans. Brian, I've been doing the best I can without you.
Thanks for stepping in.
Sure.
Somehow I've managed to finagle a Wi-Fi connection on my iPad, so thank you.
Sure.
I guess let's keep things moving. And talking about the building and site sections, we know there was a lot of interest in how the project will negotiate the change in grade from Farm Street to the Beasley Oval site. And the sections, I think, tell the story where on top the existing condition with the current high school with the grayed out area with courtyard in the middle is actually the piece that negotiates the grade change from front to back, although it's really hard to understand when you're in there because the building is compartmented in a way that you don't really experience that change as you go through the building. The proposed building is set up a few feet from the field level in order to mitigate the sense of being sort of lower than the surrounding topography. And then the field occupies a mid-level between Farm Street and the front door, so that there's a sense with the 2 changes in grade, with retaining walls, and then the lower part having some sort of a stair element that could become a civic element as well, and a gathering space, that this helps to mitigate that grade change and really makes the feeling of a campus become a bit more reinforced here. Moving to the next slide, please. And the 3-dimensional imagery, we felt, begins to tell the story about scale, and also that story that we talked about of reinforcing kind of the civic presence of the building. And you can see the front of the building, how much that is defined by the existing footprint and the need to build the new school while the existing school remains in place. But even with all the constraints and including the wetland resource behind, there's an opportunity here to create the sense of a center, that it's somewhat communicated through the form of the school. Where is the main entry? Where am I going to as I approach the school, and how does it welcome me? And these images would be sufficient for the submission, and I think they tell a story about, the relationship of the building to the surrounding landscape, and the desire to create a campus on all sides of the building, even though we're constrained by the border buffer of mature trees on the east side. There's an opportunity to open through the school and to traverse that public axis. I've been playing with that wordplay a little bit. An axis, meaning the straight line through, it communicates something about being able to travel through. And there's a great opportunity to do that, to create outdoor learning spaces all around the school. And we felt that taking this a little bit further was necessary, even though it's a little bit ahead of its time in terms of the study. The next image is actually an animation, and I hope it will animate in this setting.
It has.
So what we are after here is the ability to have you get the sense that you can step up out of your chair now and go and look at a physical model that's there in the room. So we're doing it virtually. And what a model like this does is create an understanding of the scale of the building. I think in this imagery, you really see what a big building this is. We're talking about 260,000 square feet. It's about 10,000 square feet larger than the current building. And you can really see the diagram of the academics facing south, getting access to light and views and overlooking the landscape, and having room to maneuver. And on the north side, the gym and the auditorium, the special programs being clustered together to better conserve on the space. The scale of the project, I think, becomes clear with the application of windows, although there will be much study in the future in terms of design that's appropriate to each individual room. But the pattern, I think, expresses something that we're after in terms of making the building look like one whole thing, not making it a series of clusters that happen to share a material, but that there might be a pattern that really interweaves all of it together. And I think that itself communicates something about the mission of a 21st century educational facility, which this will be, something about unity and community. Next slide, please. In terms of designing the interior character at this stage, we don't have the time and the resources to really do that for every space. What we did in this diagram is focus on the dining commons and to talk about really its connectivity and how it links the four clusters, it links the community access spaces of the gym, auditorium, potentially media center, which could actually start to bridge across the dining commons in addition to that one slender bridge that we're showing. And also connection to the outdoor plaza at the back of the school. Obviously, the educational wing here, the classroom neighborhoods, need to be closely connected to the other aspects of the building. And that common space does that not only horizontally, but also vertically. And we've added some imagery here from recent projects at Somerville, North Middlesex High, that communicate something about the brightness and transparency that we envision for this project. Transparency that works on multiple layers of giving a sense of connectedness and groundedness. It feeds on a curiosity for what programs that other kids in your class or other classes may be working on, and presents an opportunity for differentiated learning with a multitude of different flexible spaces that also are balanced in terms of delivering some identity for each of the pieces. And obviously, the connections to outdoor space is important, as we've learned through COVID, that those can become classrooms themselves. And every setting that we can create that's educational is really going to help to bring the vision together for the project. Next slide. And on top of all of the design considerations that are seen, there's a lot that's unseen here in terms of sustainability and resilience. The community has voiced very strong goals for the project in terms of it being a future-oriented project. The goals encapsulated under the aegis of a LEED certification include all-electric mechanical systems, an extremely robust enclosure with a high degree of insulation and well sealed, to be able to deliver a zero net energy readiness. And the readiness part means that the roof of the building is solar PV ready. So in the future, an array of photovoltaic panels can be installed, and that will bridge the gap to a zero net energy performance of the building at some point in the future. Those are not installed with the building. They would come at some point in the future, but the infrastructure to support them would be part of the main project. The goals for energy and water efficiency are 20% above code mandated levels, and also the robust MEP and building envelope commissioning ensure that in practice the building is going to reach those goals, and that there's a plan in place for the future in terms of how it's maintained, so that the project is really set up well to deliver on the vision. It's not just a diagram, and it's not just a set of checklists, that it will actually perform in reality. Next, please. And inevitably, there's a discussion, and we'll have this discussion with MSBA about where the project will exceed some of the guidelines, or the guideline that is put forward for a school. Now, the MSBA has a template that when you plug in the enrollment, it gives you the space requirements as a minimum. What it doesn't have is the intelligence of the programming process that the community has been through, the district has been through, the visioning and the programming that have led us to putting spaces that are going to be purpose-built, that are suited exactly to the educational program, and also the needs of the community. And so some of those spaces are under the core academics. The number of classrooms is a bit above what MSBA has kind of in their template. A large group instruction space, which is really a central feature of project-based learning, is in there. A robust special education program, which has purpose-built spaces, including small group and resource rooms. That's 2,700 above the MSBA template. We know that the arts programs and music are extremely robust. The band room being sized for the full band and percussion. It is actually double the size of the MSBA templated space, which is not designed for the entire band and percussion to occupy it. So that's a discussion that will occur. Phys ed alternatives are sized to match the current programs that the high school has, so that those programs can continue into the future. One that is included also, but under the other category, is the auxiliary gym for gymnastics.
Hey, Brian, I think
Yes.
we need to move on because we are way past our time.
Sure.
But I think certainly this is an important conversation for this body as well. But I think we need to keep moving.
Sure,
Sorry.
no problem. I think it's a good practice run. Next slide, please. And I'll give it to Wynn.
Throughout the course of the preferred schematic report, we narrowed down the options to the preferred option, which is shown here as option 3, which is all new construction. And for comparative purposes in terms of cost, we looked at it against what a base repair would be, which is basically a code upgrade, building systems replacement, but no physical changes to the building and no upgrade to the educational program that can be provided within the school. We also looked at a renovations additions option in comparison for cost, and for the one that we looked at, we were keeping about a third of the existing building and replacing about 2/3 or adding new. So the difference in cost range from $140 million to the $219.5 million that's shown here. The cost per square foot for the new construction is $675.15. When we looked at it compared to estimated costs in year 2020 and 2021 MSBA cost data, that was running around $656 a square foot. So based on the current market conditions, we're right in line with those average costs that MSBA has on their cost data information. So with the new project where we have indicated that if we round up to 220 million, it looks as if the town share will be about 163 million, and MSBA will participate in about $57 million of that. And that roughly equates to about $1,058 per 1,000 of assessed value of residential property. Does anybody have any questions on the slides, on the cost before we move to the last slide? The project website has a pretty in-depth discussion within the preferred schematic report of the cost, and it also provides a chart so you can kind of find your home value and what the cost would be per year for the 30-year bond that's anticipated. Next slide. We just wanted to quickly show that we have had 6 community forums online. We've had 20 permanent building committee and school committee meetings to go through the whole process, both the preliminary design program and the preferred schematic, coming to the conclusion that we're at today, where we are asking MSBA for their approval to move on to the next phase for schematic design. As I mentioned before, we do have a project website. We keep that up to date with all the information on all the various meetings and community forums that we've had. Both meeting minutes and actual presentations are included on the website. And that concludes the presentation.
How we doing, Mike, on the time? A little over.
We have any questions for Superintendent or for Tim or the consultants? Comments, anything? Stephen?
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty noticeable when you go through sort of what the MSBA recommendations for spaces are and what we're proposing, that we're exceeding pretty much everything except for, I think, the health office. And so I'm just curious, in other projects that you've managed, what do we expect to sort of be their feedback? I know that you have some notes in the comments section about sort of areas that you're going to highlight, and this is why we exceed in these areas, but generally as a board, when you go in front of them and you give them this 20-minute presentation, and you're, as a group, we're exceeding all of these numbers, what do you feel like their feedback's going to be, and how receptive do you think they're going to be to our sort of particular circumstances?
Well, they have provided some feedback to us, and we do know that they're going to be paying particular attention to the athletics program and determining how much of that square footage that they will participate in. Out of all of those categories, I think that's the one that'll have the highest level of non-participation by MSBA. The high school has a robust athletics program, and I think the design team worked really hard to make sure that they provided enough of the space that matches what they currently have for each of the athletic programs. That's the category where we anticipate, like I said, MSBA giving some pushback on the excess of square footage. We're hoping that we have provided enough information to allow them to participate in some of the other core academic overages, special education overages. Those spaces, we feel confident that we have a good chance at getting them to participate in those excess square footage, but we do know that we're up against a battle on how much athletic program space that they'll participate in.
Okay, thank you.
Amy?
Just going on further with that athletics, it was the biggest cut. Like, the proposed was like half of what we currently have. Is that because we're losing the field house? Like, if you bring that chart back up?
The MSBA will only fund to a certain footprint.
But it said existing was like at 43.
The existing field house is 18,000.
So if you look, it was like, see, we have existing 43 and we're going down to 29, right? Is that because we're losing the field house? Like, where, or am I not reading the chart right? Which could be true.
No,
You're reading the chart correctly. We are going down.
What are we losing? The field house?
we are losing with this, so there's going to be an athletic space.
Okay.
It won't be a field house like that exists, but the design, and correct me if I'm off, Brian and Helen, but MSBA will participate up to 18,000 square feet. And we've asked in the variation column for additional kind of spaces. So you see the 43, the 29.
No, I get that part. That
So-
just was the biggest cut to me. That was all.
The other category is also excess athletic spaces, the 14,000.
So the 14,000 makes that up down
together.
below on the chart as well.
Oh, okay.
Right. So the 9,000 variation
Okay.
and the 14,000 makes up quite a
right.
bit
The
of that.
difference.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I think there are a couple of other sort of layers here. One is the really high level of inefficiency of the current school with the layout, using different rooms for storage and or office. So, a purpose-built building is going to be a lot more efficient in terms of what it delivers for the program. Also, there's 5,500 square feet in terms of how we're accounting for it that lives down in the other category. So if you move that up, that reduces the delta a little bit. It gets within 9,000.
But it is still fewer square feet than you have attributed to PE. And to Brian's point, there is a fair amount of square footage, such as in locker rooms and storage, that could be more efficient with land.
Okay.
Yeah, there's also that sort of upper balcony space, which is not something you would typically design for in a new facility.
Mike?
So just a question on that, not to belabor it. So is the height of the gymnasium versus the height of the field house a factor in the square footage, or is it really just length by width? It is not, so the height has nothing to do with it. So then my second question is really, so as the MSBA looks at this and sees that we've perhaps said that we want to have more space than what their model recommends, does that ultimately impact the amount of reimbursement that they will give to us?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
Okay.
it does.
Okay.
that's the variation column, that's
it,
the delta.
That's it. So that's driving whatever the
Right,
percent
whatever was in
ratio.
that red column on the graph, that's the variation, right? Right.
And that's what, when Lynn says participate, that's code for
Reimburse.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you. That helps a lot. Thank you.
Thank you,
It might
Helen.
be worth reinforcing that MSBA will look really almost solely at the educational purpose for a certain space. So, typically we talk about the number of teaching stations that can be so-called justified, and that will allow MSBA to say, okay, we will participate, we will, provide reimbursement for those spaces. But there are some spaces that are for athletics almost solely, and so those are the ones that become a little bit more contentious.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the group? Seeing none, thank you all very, very much. This is a great presentation. Tim, did you have any, we didn't want to
No,
shut you
I
off.
have
Okay,
nothing
very
to
cool.
add. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. This is a great presentation. I know we're pleased to stay up to speed, and very much look forward to the next, the next step. I would encourage not only all of us here, but anyone in the community to visit the project website as often as you can. It is updated constantly, and it is a very, very well done website.
Do we know when the next community forum is going to be?
I don't have a date for the next community forum yet, no.
Okay.
I think what we're going to do is try to share this information with some of the PTOs.
Yep.
I think we're gonna try to get to Galvin and get to the high school PTOs or school site council, just to try to make some connections with parents who are going to be impacted by this plan, by this project.
What's the next step after we make this presentation? to the
Schematic
MSBA?
design, module 4 is when they'll actually start the design itself. Is that fair to say, Helen? Lynn?
It's not that what we've been doing isn't design. We've been pretty careful about saying diagrammatic and very, preliminary. But yeah, we'll really dig into details. We're going to revisit programming questions, and the moment that we officially move into schematic design is when the MSBA board votes on June 22nd. So that's when things will pick back up again, and I'm suspecting that we'll have a community forum over the summer sometime.
So on June 22nd, they'll make a decision as to how much they're going to reimburse for this project?
Nope, that's the moment where they say, keep going.
Oh, okay, we're still
going.
on track. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
They will begin to give us some ideas about what spaces they will deem ineligible for reimbursement. We will have a good idea of that at the end of this process we're going through now.
Great, thank you.
Very good.
Thank you so much. We appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Good night. Thank you.
We'll be taking this show on the road. Tim, I think we're all set. I don't want you to, I know you have your little guy, he's probably sound asleep.
Thanks, Tim.
Be a good dad. Be a good dad and wake him
We
up.
hope so.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Tim. Thank you so much. Also joining us this evening for a high school presentation, Beth, I was wondering if we were running behind here. Thank you so much for being so patient. We welcome Beth Hughes. We also welcome 2 students, Abby Leary and Elizabeth Stevens. So I think many of you made it to Beth's classroom on the high school tour. Beth is a high school English teacher and a kid magnet. She's just really remarkable. And I think, you know, I can speak for, I think, my children. I think that they would love the opportunity to be in Beth's class. But Beth is an English teacher with us. She's worked for the last few years to try to re-engage students and reinvigorate kind of the online literacy magazine that is called Reflections. And it's really a great opportunity. Right now, it looks like there's about 20 students. Am I close with that number, Beth? 20? And so that are writing regularly and publishing their work, right? And the notion of publishing work and making work public is really powerful. And I think, again, this is, you know, one of many areas where I think Beth is just crushing it. We can talk more about the other areas as well. I don't want to embarrass you, Beth, but I can turn it over to you at this point to talk about your experience and give the students an opportunity to share their experiences as well. I should also add that the online magazine recently won an award, Beth? Yeah, and so is that NCTE?
Yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit and just kind of catch you up, and then I'll have Elizabeth and Abby share. They're each going to share a piece that they've written, and I believe is one of the ones published on our website. So
thank you so much.
You're welcome. I was told that I might be able to share my screen, so I'm going to try that. I think I can. I did, for those of you that have access to the Zoom chat, I did put the hyperlink to the magazine there. It's also, if you're on the Wakefield homepage for the high school, there's a nav bar at the top, and one of the options is student activities, and Reflections magazine is reachable there. It's always in my signature line and that kind of thing. So it's easy. You can also just search it. It's Reflections magazine, WMHS reflectionsmagazine.wordpress.com for that. So I'm going to see if I can just share and just show you really quickly. I don't know if this, and I haven't done Zoom in so long, I feel rusty, which is a good thing. That's a good thing, right? We're happy, we're glad. So I think this will work. Hopefully I'm not sharing like my personal text messages. I don't know. They're not very exciting. There you go. You can see Reflections there, right?
Yes.
So this is a magazine that we do. I took over creative writing. It was kind of not happening for a while, and then I took over maybe 4 years ago, and then students were excited about continuing. We were trying to be like the freedom writers, and we're going to do creative writing 3, 4, 5, 17. I'm going to go to college with them. We're going to stay together forever and ever. Amen. And so I pitched a creative writing 2 class, and it filled up. It was awesome. And one of the things that we wanted to do was to revive the magazine, and so that's what we've done. I built a new magazine, kind of starting from scratch in WordPress. I have my own blog in WordPress. I love all things WordPress, and I don't work for them and won't get money for that, but I love them. And so I kind of built this magazine here. And originally, you can see the archive section right here. This is the older pieces that when we first started out, everything was a page, and I would just keep adding to like the pages there. So if you followed the magazine, my internet's super fast. My son's probably gaming downstairs. If you added to the magazine, anybody that followed us wouldn't see that there was something new. So this is the archive. So everything is still here. One of the things that our Creative Writing 2 group decided to do, which I love, is we added art. And we said that art is still storytelling. And so we added that piece. And then the clincher is students have to talk about what's the story involved in that. And that has expanded to students write music. They do like ambient pictures. They do stuff that they just do on their own that I never even knew was a thing. These kids that don't take art other than their elective, but do tons of stuff at home. So that's been kind of exciting. So you can just see the drop tabs here. This is the new format. We gave it a facelift in the fall, and ironically, we were in the process of facelifting it, and then I got in the mail the award, And so the award is called the Realm Award, and basically it's from the NCTE, which is the National Council of Teachers of English, and they give out a Realm Award every year to every state, certain publications, and it stands for Recognizing Excellence in Art and Literary Magazines. And so we were actually one of, 2021 was our second year in business, so our launch year was COVID, so that was awesome. And then 2021 was sort of when we were doing all the banana stuff last year. And so we still won a major award. The students ask if there's a leg lamp like in a Christmas store, and there's not. But we did win a major award, so we're excited. We were one of 6 schools in the entire state to win it. So we were really excited. It just kind of validated what we do. And we also opened it up. The second thing we decided to do when we rebranded was to open up to faculty as well. And so Joy Schilling has a piece under archives, a beautiful art piece. And I try to do the writing that my students do. So we were doing magnetic poetry where you can go online, like those pieces on your fridge. There's an online interface one. And so students could take them and drag them and create pieces. And so I shared 2 pieces that I created that were kind of sad. I feel like I bum people out when I do my writing, but they're there. So we're trying to kind of do student voice. There are 5 billion people on the internet. So what I love about this is it's an authentic audience, and students are not just writing for Teacher Lady, but they're writing for anyone out there that wants to follow. If you're on the home page, you can, I did click it like 10 minutes ago. Over on the right side, it says enter your email address if you want to follow us, and then you'll get bombarded whenever we post something. And I tend to do it in batches. I'm the only one that can kind of actually post on the site, and so we do it in batches. But you'll see that. But creative writing too is awesome. I call the program, I hope Abby and Elizabeth have heard me say this, so it's not the first time, but I call it our island of misfit toys. We have students from it's Rudolph, we have students from all over the school that would normally never be sitting at the same table. And we're all together, and it's kind of awesome because it just works. We have this community, this little family that it's kind of awesome. So I love that. I'm trying to think about anything else that creative writing too. Also, we just wrote a collaborative novella for term 2. We worked on advanced poetry for term 3, and right now and they've been doing blogs the whole year, and right now they're all finishing up, we got 2 weeks left, passion projects, and those can be anywhere from, I have a student who's writing poems and doing sketch work, like Rupi Kaur's Milk and Honey, that kind of rebranded poetry and revived it. And then we have other students who are doing, one student wrote a novel, just real quick on the side. What have you done lately? She wrote a book during COVID, and so she's working on getting that published. I have other students who are doing screenplays. So it's very much project-based learning for term 4. And it's the first year, we're trying it out, and I think it's working well. So we'll see. We did a check-in this week, it was awesome. So anyway, that's who we are. The magazine I'm so proud of it, and the students in creative writing too are the staffers, and they have to, they get the opportunity to, but they have to publish once a term in the magazine. And then my creative writing 1 classes, they get extra credit. I bribe them. They get extra credit if they publish, and most of them do every term. They like the points, but they also get to get their voice out there, which is awesome. So yeah, so that's it. That's who we are. And we won an award, and we have awesome writers who are part of a little family. And I wish we could go on to creative writing 3, 4, and 5, Abby and Elizabeth, but you're leaving us as seniors. And these 2 people are amazing, beautiful writers, and definitely leaders in the building if you don't already know them, and leaders in our classroom for sure. And I would say, regardless of the kind of day that they're having, they walk into the room and they bring just happy with them, just some sunshine. I'm totally embarrassing them, so they're gonna kill me tomorrow. In addition to, I told them 7:40, and then, so sorry, ladies. So I'm gonna have Abby, I'll have Abby go first, and Abby, you can introduce yourself, and then if you wanted to share a piece, and then we'll have Elizabeth.
So my name is Abby Leary. I'm a senior. I'll be going to Bridgewater State in the fall, and I'm majoring in secondary ed and English.
The cheerleader squad.
And so, I really enjoy writing. It's pretty much why I took creative writing. And like this class is like so special because like you get to do writing that you don't normally get to do in an English class, and it's all just like fun and like T's will let us say swear words, which you can't do in an English essay. But it's a lot more.
All the time we have, Abby, I'm sorry.
And so I like with the magazine particularly, I like to be able to publish my work. Kind of gives me a little voice, and I like to think that people can read it and like find themselves in my work or something. I don't know. So I'm gonna share a piece that I wrote. Ms. Hughes has us do these writer's books, and we have to like write about something specific. So this one we're doing illusions. So I did a little short story, and it's called Sinking Below. Before dawn, the pocket watch tipped off the side of the boat. The rocking had lulled it to the edge of the boards, a siren drawing her victim closer and closer to their death. It fell through the air from glory to nothing, the archangel Lucifer. The light splash of the watch hitting the water was covered by the chorus of the seas, the cacophony of sleeping sailors, the creaking of boards, the crashing of waves. If a tree falls alone in the forest, does it make a noise? If a watch vanishes in the middle of the night, will it be remembered, or will it be forgotten like everything else that has found a home? The watch slowly sinks, light glinting off the glass, but the watch is falling down a bottomless pit where even the light can't follow, and after a too short time, the moon finds that she can no longer reach. Deeper and deeper, darker and darker, falling and falling, the never-ending plummet to the unknown earth. After eons, the small, lonely watch finally hits the earth, landing on a cushion of sand, and there it sits for eons more, completely and utterly forgotten. Until after 70 years, while searching for a shipwreck, this small, insignificant watch was found by divers. A clue, they had said. She came this way, they had said. And so the watch was taken from the dark sand, brought into the light, and said hello to the moon once more.
Very nice.
Thank you.
That's great.
Thanks, Abby, for sharing that. That was beautiful. And then this is Elizabeth Stevens. Elizabeth Stevens for president.
Yeah. I'm Elizabeth Stevens. I'm a senior. I'm the class president. If you didn't grasp that, I'm going to Providence College in the fall, and I'm also an English major. So I've always liked writing, but I've just been someone who does like a million different things at once because that's just who I am. So being able to, like, I quit sophomore year, I stopped doing a foreign language because I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I did creative writing instead, which has been like such a good decision that I've made. So I was still able to like write and expand on language just in a different way. And I've always loved that. And I love music, so I can incorporate, like, I find poetry and music and stuff like that. So that's always been something I really enjoy. And then specifically with reflections, despite bragging rights that I can get, I just like being able to share, like Abby, like being able to share something and like connect with people in ways that you don't usually connect with someone, because it's awkward to be like, hey, I wrote this, read it, like in person, and just have them like read it for themselves. It's weird. So this is a poem I wrote. We were doing a poetry unit when we had to do a bunch of different styles of poems. This one's just free verse, so there's nothing like specific about it. But I wrote it about the complicated relationship between a mother and a daughter at all stages of life, and how it's like different than anything else because it's, I mean, I'll read it, whatever. It's called My Mother. I see her smile in my hips, I see her shine in my hair. My mother, I sit and watch movies with her, I hide away under my covers. We are a decrepit, shattered mirror, a glorious stained church window. My greatest critic, my only true supporter. We are the same, and we are everything different. We are everything and nothing, it's eerie, and it's wonderful. I want to be her, I want to change. Everything I hate, and everything I love, I get it from her teeth and from her fingertips. She is my best friend, but my greatest foe. I wrote that.
That was so awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Abby. Does anyone have any questions for us before I let them go to bed or whatever they do? I don't know what they do after.
Mike?
I had a question for Elizabeth and Abby. What kind of coffee does Miss Hughes drink? Because I want to get some of that. Amazing. You could tell. Nothing? No coffee?
Drinks tea.
Wow. Jeez, I know she does.
Stop drinking coffee because of like sugar or something. I don't know.
Good to see you again, Elizabeth. I'll always call you Charlotte, but you'll have to go. I'll have to go with Elizabeth. Amazing. You know, obviously you get the energy and the infectiousness of writing from Miss Hughes, and kudos to you, Beth, in that regard. But beautiful writings that you showed to us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stephen?
I'm curious how many people follow your WordPress.
I could tell you.
Do you tell your students?
Sorry, I'm saying again?
I'm wondering, like, with whatever that number is, like, do you tell your students, like, when they're putting
Oh my
sort
word,
of their...
I do all sorts of, yeah, I am unabashed in having them follow me, my private blog, or not private, but my professional blog, and then follow the school, and then just today, like, actually, I just got a notice before I logged on that, because you can look at stats even with the free accounts, and today was like our highest number of hits ever, and I think we reached like 80 or something. So the more you follow, it's awesome, and then the kids get to see it, and then they see a like in there, and every now and then I can tell, like, I know that user is the mother of someone, like Alejandro's mom is like the biggest fan, and she's so embarrassed, but I'm like, your stuff is beautiful. So we have a decent number of followers. But definitely I make my students look every now and then. I'll have all of my classes, English too, I'll have them look and just look through and find something that motivates them and either mirror it or just leave a comment for the writer. And then that way our stats get skewed a little bit and we get lots more hits. We're just all waiting to be discovered by Ellen before she's done. That's really, I think, what we're just gonna sit back, right? Maybe that's what we're trying to do, is just to be famous, I guess. I don't know. But honestly, it's just a way to showcase student voice. So I didn't create Elizabeth or Abby or any of the students. They had this in them, and as an English teacher and with standards and testing and all of it's just so hard to get that creative outlet, and to be honest, this is the kind of writing they're going to do the rest of their life. So even in my English class, they have to do blogs, and we do Goodreads reviews online, because I want them to be writing for 5 billion people and to get better at the writing they're doing for the world and forever and ever, amen, and not just the 3 modes, of course, that we do in English class all the time. So these 2 women were amazing before they ever ran into me. So I have to say that right off the bat.
I would just applaud sort of your ability to give them a space to be brave in putting their own works out there, and sort of allowing that level of growth that happens, because sort of putting that piece of yourself out isn't easy. I don't think it absolutely comes naturally to individuals. So giving them a supportive space to feel that and have it be natural is wonderful. So
Awesome.
yeah, no, it's a great. I'm looking at it now. It's a great space, and I have followed. So
thank you.
Absolutely.
You're the one. You and my mom. Thank you.
Nice.
I just followed too. So you got 2 new followers tonight, at least. Make it hard.
Kevin?
So I'm a history teacher, so I teach historical writing, and my students are not close to this happy or excited. I think they learn how to write, but they're just, if I was doing this presentation, the students would not be looking like this, with being smiled and excited.
I might be bribing them with Bagel World or something.
That's great.
So.
No, whatever you're doing, I would keep doing it.
I said, just drink the Kool-Aid before you get on the call, and then we'll be good.
But seriously, I think I back up what was just said, that I think it's great, because I think on like regular English classes or regular history classes, we teach like, here's a thesis, here's evidence, here's argument. Yeah, but come on, that's what we're training students to do. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, right? We should probably keep doing that, but I think it is really important to have a class that's being offered that does allow them to do kind of like real world, like true creativity with writing. So I think it's great. Kudos.
Any other comment? Oh, Amy, yes.
Does everyone get into the class that wants to get in?
Yes,
Oh,
anyone
okay.
that wants it, and if we have a high number, we'll run 2 sections of it. So we started, I think this is only the 3rd year it's run. And Creative Writing 2, Creative Writing 1 has been running, I think I've done that for 4 years, maybe 5. And then they just asked and we pitched it and that's how it works. But we've been able to fill it, so.
That's great.
Yeah, and I looked at the numbers for next year, we have another full class for Creative Writing 2. I have 2 sections of Creative Writing 1 right now, so. And most of them are signed up for Creative Writing 2. It's the whole STEM thing, you know? The whole, people just, we gotta get the STEM, and I get it, so then students have to, unfortunately, when they get older, decide, do I wanna double up in math or do creative writing? And so that breaks my heart. I was a math and an English major, and I taught college math before I taught high school English. And so I love both sides of the brain, but it breaks my heart that they have to choose which side they wanna kind of develop by the time they're juniors. So then I don't get to get them, so.
Go ahead, Doug.
So I think, to Abby and Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your work. The notion of, sharing your work for an audience greater than one, right? Greater than just your teacher. Putting yourself out there and just seeing what comes is just really an amazing step. And if we can support you in any way moving on, we can post-date the teaching contracts for in between your graduate programs. And I'm super, super happy for you and just couldn't be more proud of the work that you're doing. And Mrs. Hughes, I think you could teach any class and it would be filled, right? And so thank you so much.
I feel like you need me to help you move, or you need to borrow money or something. I don't know.
So,
but thank you for your kind words, and thank you everyone for your support and for loving on our kids and getting everything ready for them. And these two are just 2 of like many amazing, amazing people that we have in our building. So thank you very much.
Well, let me just add, you do incredible work, and you're certainly a wonderful representative of the outstanding, teachers that we have all throughout the district, certainly in the high school. And, girls, best of luck to you in college next year and beyond. You have such ambition and hopes and a glow about you that is enthusiasm, and it is such a positive reinforcement, frankly, to the work that we do in support of empowering teachers, empowering Ms. Hughes, and to provide the type of inspiration and guidance that they do. So it's really incredible all around. Best of luck to your work. Thank you, Ms. Hughes, for everything that you do for our students. And hopefully this little commercial has helped with some recruitment. Maybe we'll see a second session for Creative Writing 2 next year. But thank you again for everything that you do. It's outstanding, and best of luck, girls, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night.
I didn't know if they were going to be able to hold on because we had run over with our design team. And boy, I'm so glad they did.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, you could listen to them.
Oh, if this English thing doesn't work out, she could be a stand-up comedian. She's unbelievable.
She's a remarkable teacher, has remarkable energy, and her sister's also a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
She like her,
her sister
too?
teaches in Reading. She's a math teacher. And they both have this, they're just magnetic. It's just unbelievable. It really is. It's just, but I'm so glad that we were able to kind of thread that needle in, because the students were also, because initially Beth did send them a note and say 7:40, and I'm thinking 7:40, 8:40, 20 minutes for our presentation. Yikes. So MSBA is going to kick us out after 20 minutes, and so, but I'm so pleased that they were able to make it on the call. But
Absolutely.
that's it from me this evening, so thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Lyons. Item number 12 on the agenda is subcommittee reports. Why don't we, if we could, certainly we can very easily dispense with the first 2. Finance and Facilities has not met since our last meeting, but we've certainly had a substantive conversation tonight, presentation the type of work that has occurred. Labor and personnel, I think the committee's informed of where we are there. So student services, Mike.
We haven't met either, Tom, so
Okay.
that's quick too.
So we'll move on to probably what will be some discussion, or let's be some remarks anyways. Policy and Communications, Dr. Piscatello.
Yeah, definitely. So the Policy and Communications Subcommittee hasn't met, but I gave you a preview last week at our meeting that we were going to be bringing forward 2 policies, updating some of our policies around the responsible use of technology, and then a sexual harassment Title IX policy. So for our new members, it's the policy on policies for the school committee says that new policies get placed on the table for 2 weeks. So to give people the opportunity to read through it, prepare questions, suggest alternatives, etc. So this evening, that's what we'll be doing. The first policy before you is a sexual harassment Title IX policy, updating and kind of modernizing our policy around Title IX. It's constantly changing as you go through. So new administrations come in, they suggest changes through oftentimes what they call a Dear Colleague letter. And then towards the tail end of the Trump administration, they passed a very different process, not as casual as a Dear Colleague letter, but went through a whole process that resulted in a number of changes as well. So the policy that you have before you is kind of a conglomeration of 2. A model policy that MASC, Massachusetts Association of School Committees, put together, but that had been added to by some of the team at the law firm that we utilize that Sarah Spatafor comes from. So that's the policy that you have in front of you. The other policy that we worked on was really worked on by Stephen, Mr. Weiner in technology, and the superintendent, and modernizing and updating our standards for responsible use of technology. So those were the 2 policies that we want to place on the table to be considered for adoption at our next meeting on the 24th. So if it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman,
Certainly.
I have a motion. Move that the school committee place on the table for 2 weeks the sexual harassment Title IX policy and the standards for responsible use of technology policy as presented.
Second.
Motion made, motion made and seconded. Any discussion or questions at this time?
Is this motion just to put it on the table to vote next week?
In 2 weeks.
To decide 2 weeks. So we can still discuss it in 2 weeks?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, so what the process would be, very, just repeating a little bit what Kevin already said, is that the subcommittee administration work on policy drafts. They bring it before the full body. It is put on with very little discussion, just a brief explanation by the committee chair, subcommittee chair. We then have 2 weeks on our own sort of pace to review and certainly make notes or comments or thoughts. If we are not obligated to vote on it in 2 weeks. We will discuss it in 2 weeks, and if we need to have other questions or concerns, we can send it back to the subcommittee to work with the superintendent on refining whatever our questions may be. So there's no obligation to vote on it in 2 weeks, but it will be on the agenda to be discussed in 2 weeks. If we're satisfied with it, then we can vote. If not, then we sort of send it back to subcommittee. Okay, motion made, seconded, and discussed. Any further questions? Oh, Amy, yes.
Just for the new members, we have these 2 policies, they're out on the website.
They're in the packet. Oh, I'm sorry.
So existing policies, these aren't new policies, so if you want to compare what's changed, you can go online and look up these policies.
The technology?
Oh, no.
The technology one is new.
Yeah.
There's nothing in there about cell
There's an
phone use?
acceptable use policy.
Okay.
And there's information on cell phones in the handbook.
Handbooks, okay,
Correct.
gotcha.
But this is a policy that's pretty comprehensive in that space. And there'll be also additional language added around cell phones to the handbooks.
Based on what's voted in on this policy?
This is in addition to the policy.
Okay.
That will be forthcoming. Yes. Future work.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Passes unanimously. This will be on the agenda for discussion on May 24. Okay, moving on, future dates and agenda items. Just a reminder, Tuesday, May 24, 7:30 will be our regularly scheduled meeting. It'll begin with a executive session at 6 p.m. and then the regular meeting here at 7:30. Reminder to not only all of us, but to the community at large, Wakefield Annual Town Meeting begins next Monday, a week from yesterday, Monday, May 16, 7 p.m. at the Galvin. Certainly encourage all the townspeople to attend, participate in America's oldest form of government. And certainly we encourage everyone to come and hear not only the annual reports, but to hear the budget planning that we all have are prepared. So certainly encourage everyone to attend the town meeting next week, or beginning next week. Any other future agenda items for request? Yes, Kevin.
One thing I was wondering, since it didn't happen last year, and I don't know if it's been past practice as of late, but I always found it really helpful, with no timeline in mind, is having our legislators potentially come to a meeting at some point over the next year or so. I always thought that was a valuable way to build some relationship, hear an update from Beacon Hill, hear some of the things that they're doing. So if maybe that's something that would be advantageous, maybe thinking about that over the course of the next year.
Certainly. I think it's a terrific idea. I just wrote it down. Great. Any other? Yes, Stephen.
I know I had asked last week about the youth council and putting them on the agenda. I was hoping we could make sure that happens. I think they have some things that are in the works, and they were hoping to get on the docket. Okay. The other thing I noticed recently around the Woodville, I know some things going on at the high school at the loading dock, which is that I think food services got a delivery of new trays, and I was wondering how it related to our town policy of reduction in plastics. I'm wondering if we could hear a little bit from Danielle from food services on, I know there was a procurement issue around that. I know that there was maybe some budgetary stuff. I'm wondering if we could just get an update on how we're holding to that town policy.
Okay, very good.
Great.
Well, any other thoughts or requests this time? No? And of course, if you don't, just shoot an email to either Doug or myself. We'll make it happen. Okay. School committee comments going around the table this evening. We'll start with Dr. Piscadlo.
Just real quick, it's already been mentioned a couple of times tonight. I had the chance this weekend to see the performance of The Wizard of Oz, and it was really excellent. So the fact that it's over 2 weekends is a nice gift for people, because if you haven't had a chance to see it, certainly do. The team that Will has put together just has created an amazing production, and probably some of the best scenery, costumes that I've seen at a high school performance, and a really amazing performance by the student who played Dorothy. I thought it was incredibly award-winning in my book, so definitely worth seeing.
Great. And Eileen?
I'm going to echo what you just said about The Wizard of Oz, because I did see it twice this weekend. My son is a munchkin, so one of the best, I think. But that's just my bias. And it's just incredible. The cast is amazing. Will is so great with all the kids, including the elementary kids, and all the parent volunteers. I mean, it's just so incredible to see the kids of all ages coming together and putting on this wonderful performance. So it's just really great. And then I just want to make one comment again about those wonderful students that we just saw, because, wow, I mean, their work was just incredible, and that seems like a really amazing class. So just wanted to say that again, because I'm just really impressed with those kids and Miss Hughes.
Great. Kevin?
Oh, it's me.
The other Kevin.
Yeah, the other Kevin. My son was also in The Wizard of Oz. He was not a munchkin, though. He was a flying monkey.
The best one?
No, well, he was. I think they were all great. But I just want to. I've been involved in some theater productions in my own high school, and I do have to say that I agree 100% with the comments. I think the musical number with all the munchkins, with all the kids on stage, the ability to to have that long musical number with all those people on stage was phenomenal. I mean, that's just like people that saw it were like, oh, that was really good, and I was like, no, that's like ridiculous high degree of difficulty. Like he will deserve something, or someone, whoever's working on that show deserves something. That was an incredible performance. Just learning the ropes. I'm psyched to take that charting the course. There's some course I'm supposed to take for those who don't know that to teach me how to be on the school committee, and I think looking forward to take that. Signed up for that one about a month, and that's it.
Good. Thank you. Mike?
Just a couple of quick plugs. So CPAC, so that's the Special Education Parent Advisory Council for anyone out there who has a child that's on any sort of a plan of sorts. They're a wonderful resource if you're challenged by what do I do next, how does this work, how do I navigate this. They're a wonderful organization. You can check out their website, and I'm the liaison with that group. They're amazingly dedicated people. And the second thing is for those high school parents that are out there, senior night is coming up very soon. I'm affiliated with that. It's a great event that keeps kids post-prom away from a tragedy that happened several years ago in a very fun-filled environment that involves no alcohol. So the night of the event is an all-night event. So any parents that could potentially help out, that would be greatly appreciated, even if it's for a few hours. But it's a pretty incredible event. The kids really enjoyed it a lot too. So looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen?
Again, Wizard of Oz was amazing. We our kids, I will say our 6-year-old left at the Flying Monkey scene. I get it. So she went and had, some fresh air after that, but me and the boy stayed throughout. Just an amazing production. Hats off to everyone involved. And that yellow brick road across the front of the plexi and the light, and amazing. What else? The Advanced Art Group is doing a show at the Albion Street Cultural Center. It's this weekend and next weekend. Fortunately, I had to be reminded that it was also next weekend because I'm busy this weekend. But I'll be making my way over there. It looks like just another case of our students doing just amazing work and putting it out there, to be seen. Looking forward to that. Congratulations on all the kids that took their MCAS in the 3rd and 4th grade yesterday and today. They worked hard. I heard from a student today that they really look forward to the MCAS because if they finish up quickly, the rest of the day is just fun. So that's wonderful. It's good to know. And then I just wanted to cheer. There's a group in town, the Wakefield Warrior Cleanup, that sort of started its genesis was at the Woodville with some, a mom and her student wanting to do better for their community. It started last fall. They picked it up again this spring, and instead of just doing one day at the Woodville, they've expanded it to 3 Saturdays. It was the Woodville 2 weeks ago. This past Saturday it was at the Galvin, and there'll be one more Saturday, this coming Saturday, at the Lower Common, I think, meeting at 10. And it's just a really fun community event, sort of green up the space. And just a lot of people have been coming out to sort of just work together to clean up our community, and it's great. So just wanted to throw them a little airtime. So that's it.
Great, thank you. Amy?
So another MCAS perk for 3rd and 4th graders, you get to chew gum.
That I think we knew.
Anyway.
Not quite sure
So thank you.
the Miss Dingle's thing we knew, but the gum thing we knew. They're not going to tell you things like that anymore if you keep announcing it on air. You'll be cut off from information.
I think it was April 27th was National Administrative Day, and the school committee actually has an administrator. Her name is Judy. We don't allow her to talk, but we do want to thank her for all the work that she does for us. So thank you, Judy. And that's the other thing I just want to I want to extend an open invite to Beth to come to every meeting with her energy and sense of humor. It was a great presentation, so thank you.
Indeed, I would certainly echo everything that everyone said, although I've not, my ticket for Wizard of Oz is this weekend, so I can't speak about monkeys and munchkins and that, but I certainly very much I look forward. But no, this is the type of presentations, the type of conversation that we had tonight, I think is why we're here. Not that everything that comes before us isn't important work, but we're talking about planning, we're talking about the future, talking about a new high school that couldn't be anything more futuristic than this type of conversation. We're talking about things that kids are doing and quality work and outstanding work that teachers are providing, and hearing exactly from, from some of the most outstanding students in town. It's just impressive. It really sparks a little fire for the work that we do as volunteers, and I'm sure the work that Doug and Christine and Kara and so many others on staff do as part of your profession. So thank you all for a great meeting. Thanks to the presenters and the superintendent and staff for being so well prepared for us. And certainly thanks, or congratulations, I guess, to Ms. Hughes and the team for winning the NCTE award. That's certainly something only 8 schools in the state, she mentioned, won such an award
6.
6, I'm sorry.
Right, the Realm Award. It's a pretty nice accomplishment.
Yeah.
Right, and to get Beth to come, it took some cajoling. You wouldn't know it, right? But she's a little shy about sharing her practice.
Yeah.
Right, and but she's remarkable. Yeah.
She obviously got over that tonight.
Indeed.
Well, I thought.
She did, yes.
That's good. Anyway, so without any further ado, thank you all again. We'll see you all in 2 weeks, if not sooner. And a motion to adjourn.
Sure. Move that the school committee adjourn its meeting of Tuesday, May 10, 2022.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you all and have a great night.